So I don't know what's more pathetic. Is it the complete letdown that Robert Mueller had when he indicted a bunch of Russian trolls working for the Internet Research Institute over in Russia or whatever it's called? Or is it the media trying to make it seem like this actually matters? Um, I think that there's so many different angles to take as to um, who to, there's so many stupid reactions to this that it's hard to pick the worst ones. Well, let's get through some of the more important information that's been coming out, just recently. This is from Axios coming out. I think this is from today. Let me see here. Yeah, from 3 hours ago. And it says Mueller's probe's latest indictment is Alex van der Zwaan. So they indicted this Dutch lawyer for making false statements to FBI investigators, and they don't have anything to do with Donald Trump. So according to the indictment, the false statements came when Mueller's team probed van der Zwaan's work for the Ukraine Ministry of Justice and include lying about his interactions with Rick Gates, the Paul Manafort associate and former Trump campaign advisor who was indicted by Mueller last fall. So van der Zwaan was charged with lying to investigators about conversations related to a report his law firm prepared on the trial of a Ukrainian politician, Yulia Tymoshenko. The lawyer also reportedly lied about his talks with someone else named Person A in the indictment. That probably is some sort of FBI informant. Prosecutors said van der Zwaan also deleted and failed to turn over emails requested by the special counsel in a law firm. I wonder who else did that. And the timing shows this, that Mueller indicted 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities for violating criminal laws to interfere with the 2016 U.S. election on Friday. He also struck a plea deal that same day with Richard Pinedo, who was charged with identity fraud. As Axios' Mike Allen wrote this morning, Mueller is moving fast. The indictment is a sneak peek at the level of sweep and color we expect in a final report and is a mammoth accomplishment just 9 months after Mueller was appointed. And then they're talking about how Rick Gates is expected to plead guilty. Rick Gates was basically Paul Manafort's assistant. So these are people that are being charged for crimes that happened years before the 2016 campaign. It has virtually nothing to do with the Trump 2016 campaign. And it will be pretty funny to see how they try to connect this in any way to, the administration or Trump himself, especially since it's come out that in the indictment it said that no American citizen knowingly colluded with the efforts of these Russian trolls, and the amount of money that was spent was so minuscule. And I don't know why. I've probably waited a little too long to even cover this, but I think it is worth it to wait to see all these ridiculous reactions where people were saying, "Oh, this is it's unbelievable that Donald Trump is not taking seriously the interference in the election." When now the FBI and Mueller have confirmed, and they've indicted people for it, for tampering with the election. Get the fuck out of here. So a lot of those ads and other activities. I think there were some events organized by these people, or just promoted and shared by these people, happened after the election and had nothing to do with Donald Trump. And no one is more pathetic in coming out and joining this chorus of losers than Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who said Trump's response to Russian meddling is a horror show. So he said on Sunday he blasted President Trump for not marshaling the forces to protect the United States from Russia. Here, I'll show it to you. This is from the New York Post. From Russia disrupting future elections, calling the lack of action a horror show. He says, how do we have the president of the United States not saying what everybody knows to be true? The Vermont Independent said on MSNBC's Meet the Press, Russia interfered in 16 and they're going to interfere in 2018. This is a huge deal. And that we don't have a president speaking out on this issue is a horror show. The Department of Justice, as part of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, announced the indictment of 13 Russians and 3 Russian organizations for carrying out a deliberate plot to sabotage the 2016 presidential election and to create discord in American society. So here's him speaking again. He says, and I think one of the weirdest things in modern history is you have every intelligence agency, you have the Mueller report, you have Trump's own administration saying Russians want to sabotage the 2018 campaign. Everybody knows this except the president of the United States, the former Democratic presidential candidate said. Sanders faulted Barack Obama for not calling out Russian meddling sooner, but acknowledged the former president was in a tough position. What tough position? Obama was in a very difficult position and didn't want to make it appear he was favoring Hillary Clinton. Maybe he should have done more. How can he not be construed as favoring Hillary Clinton when he campaigned for her harder than she did? And all the revelations now indicate that privately, behind closed doors, that he was using the FBI and he was using the intelligence agencies in order to screw Trump, at least. I don't know if he was doing it in order to help Clinton, but he was definitely trying to screw Trump with all of the surveillance and weird warrants and the unmaskings with Susan Rice. But he said that was then and this is now, and the Russians will do it again. So forget the past. Forget the past. Forget the past. It's like they forgot to put the sauerkraut on your Reuben when you go to the deli. So you got to forget the past. That's Bernie Sanders' attitude. He says we have got to bring Democrats and Republicans together despite the president to go forward to protect the integrity of American democracy. You're not going to have me come together with any of those people. They're virtually, both of those parties are virtually irredeemable. Oh, look at this. Germans are, yeah. There's a pretty steamy video of some German ice dancers at the Winter Olympics. Sorry, but the New York Post doesn't exactly filter its links from the salacious to the titillating. So Trump has spent the weekend railing about the Russian indictment, saying it clears his administration from claims of collusion, blaming Obama for not doing more to prevent the meddling, defending his description of Russian interference as a hoax, and saying they are laughing their asses off in Moscow, but not once calling for any action to punish Russia or prevent further interference in this year's elections. Now, the New York Post is a outlet that I respect, to some degree more than some of its competitors, but only so far. And they spread a lot. One of their favorite tactics is to talk most about Trump's sex allegations. That they have tons of clickbaity articles, especially on Facebook. So the New York Post is basically divided between a number of different factions. There's the one that's actively trying to get to the truth about the FBI's tampering in this whole affair, which is Paul Sperry. And then you have, I think, most of the rest of the Post is people who buy into the whole bullshit that they're talking about here. And I want to make it clear that if people accept that it was actual collusion and tampering in the U.S. election, buying ads and whatever, then they should probably ban AIPAC and ban all of the other lobbying groups in the U.S. CARE, ban the NAACP, ban and all of them receive money from foreign donors. Super PACs we should have. You know what? If there's anything for progressives and conservatives to come together on, it has nothing to do with what Bernie Sanders said. It has to do with the idea that maybe yes, campaign finance reform and creating an amendment that overturns Citizens United. If this is what people are so bent up about, then yeah, I think that's something that people could come together on. Absolutely. But I don't think anybody's going to think that, President Trump should work hard to prevent Russian interference in the 2018 election. Remember, this is an indictment against people that cannot. It's almost impossible to have them brought to justice here in the U.S. Alex van der Zwaan over in I think he's a Dutch citizen, but he definitely doesn't live in the United States. So they're indicting him for lying to the FBI, and he doesn't even live here, and he's not a U.S. citizen. All he has to do is fly and take refuge. He can basically pull a Julian Assange, go hide in an embassy if he's in a country where they do have an extradition treaty, or go to a country where there is no extradition treaty. He could go to, I don't know, Venezuela. He could go to I think Peru doesn't have Peru, Ecuador. They don't have extradition treaties with the United States. So this is these are empty gestures on Mueller's part. Even Axios, which normally is good, they were in the previous article. They don't have anything that really shows that van der Zwaan actually did something to tamper with the election, and they actually they heaped a little praise on Mueller. Mueller's investigation is so far the biggest joke. And I have another article, which I'm not going to read through, where on Friday, Judge Emmett Sullivan issued an order in United States versus Flynn that, while widely unnoticed, reveals something fascinating. A motion by Michael Flynn to withdraw his guilty plea based on government misconduct is likely in the works. So I predicted this a few weeks ago that based on misconduct in attaining all of these warrants and surveillance and everything, especially using the FISA warrant based at least partially and probably primarily on the Steele dossier. Based on all of that, I do believe that yes, Michael Flynn is going to retract his guilty plea, and the the case against Donald Trump will drop even further, because the only person who will be, in any way indictable here will probably remain Paul Manafort, who has, again, his issues have virtually nothing to do with Donald Trump. So this is really, it's developing into a joke, because then you're talking about a person who was the Trump campaign manager for, I think it was the campaign chair for a few months. And then, he was fired because by the way, because there were allegations of stuff he'd done in the past with Russia. So to claim that he was an active collaborator with Donald Trump, well, that only holds until I think 3 months before the election, and only 5 months prior to that, or something like that. It was probably even less. I think he replaced Corey Lewandowski somewhere in June, and then he was fired in September or something, after the Republican National Convention. So Paul Manafort's footprint here is so small, and it has nothing to do, and his indictment has nothing to do with the election, that with Flynn retracting his guilty plea, which is likely to happen very soon, the whole idea that this Russia conspiracy was a coordinated effort begins to really fall apart. And then there's another article I posted here, which is just a drop in the bucket about real collusion. People were talking about hacking until not long ago. The only hacking that happened in the 2016 election was Hillary Clinton's hacking and coughing, in a like manner to what I do in my videos. So, here's real hacking and collusion. It says the U.S. charges 3 Chinese nationals over hacking. The Department of Justice and FBI alleged information was stolen from Moodys Analytics, Siemens and Trimble. So I don't know who Trimble are. Well, it says that they're a GPS maker, but Moodys is a major firm that does a lot of analysis on bonds and on interest rates and on insurance and I think it's insurance, bonds, loans, things like that, credit. Moodys is the agency that basically grades entire countries' credit scores. Basically, they're like the Equifax of the world. And then there's Siemens, which is a massive company in Germany that I know because they are active in the same industry I used to work in, which was design of medical devices or medical device engineering. So it's charged three nationals, accusing them of stealing sensitive information, including emails of a prominent employee at Moody's and intellectual property. So Dana Bente, who, by the way, is a holdover from the Trump administration. So this is from November 27th, 2017. He said the Justice Department had a long memory and was committed to pursue the arrests and prosecution of cyber criminals. Once again, the Justice Department and the FBI have demonstrated that hackers around the world who are seeking to steal our company's most sensitive and valuable information can and will be exposed and held accountable. So it goes into how here it goes. 2011, Mr. Shia is alleged to have accessed the internal email server of Moody's Analytics and tampered with it to forward all the emails of a prominent employee to accounts controlled by the co-conspirators. Mr. Shia regularly read the emails of the Moody's economist in 2013 and 2014, seeing proprietary and confidential economic analyses, findings, and reports. So this is, if this is, true, and again, I don't even know if they're going to bring these people to trial. Apparently they don't live in the United States. They live in China. So cyber hacking, I'm sorry to say, it is, yes, there absolutely is an issue with cyber hacking in the United States, but it has nothing to do, first of all, with Donald Trump. It apparently had nothing to do with Russia and the 2016 election that can be proven, because everything they're talking about is Facebook ads and sowing discord, which is not a crime. There's no crime to sow discord. The United States, everybody, I mean, a lot of people are saying, we have Voice of America. We've sown discord in the past in Eastern Europe during the Cold War or something. So are we? Does that give them the right to charge the director of Voice of America from back in the 80s with sowing discord in their countries? No, I mean, it's a made up crime, and Robert Mueller is showing his impotence here, because there are, and I just showed you one, there are examples of foreign nationals who have hacked institutions, in this case commercial institutions, which is, don't think that that's not important. Hacking Moody's, by the way, hacking Siemens, I think, is pretty important, but hacking Moody's, which has major economic effect in the in the economic world, and this indictment was only brought now, but everything happened in 2011 and in that era. So under Barack Obama, this is where I'm going to close. Under President Barack Obama, beyond all of the other national security neglect failures that he had, he was the worst cybersecurity president ever. You had this, but you also had numerous other examples: North Korea hacking, China hacking. You probably had Iran, Israel, I don't know about Germany, but yeah, you had everybody hacking into our databases, and he did virtually nothing. And then suddenly, when his candidate loses the 2016 election, it becomes a national crisis, and Bernie Sanders has to come out and say, "Oh, well, you didn't take it seriously enough because you didn't want to seem like he wasn't being impartial. Sometimes you want to. Sometimes you see a hair in somebody's soup when they're eating the matzo ball soup, and you feel, you're torn between it, because you want them to enjoy the meal, but you don't want them to eat the hair. So you shut up and you hope they eat around the hair." That's Bernie Sanders' attitude towards this. He's like, well, President Obama, he would have liked to prevent this, but he knew that for public perceptions purposes, he couldn't. I mean, what type of excuse is that? Anyway, like the video, subscribe, comment below, share your thoughts, and absolutely share this video, and give me any more information that you think might be relevant to this whole farce of a topic.